Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're talking with Melanie Benson Strick. How you doing, Melanie?
I'm good. I know it's a mouthful.
Yeah.
I was going to add a couple more names, but I didn't feel that was very optimum.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to make sure, I always pronounce it and get it all right, because I love to have my guests on here, and I want them to look good, sound good, and make sure I get their names right, so I'm off to a good start. She's got a great podcast called The Small Business Optimizer, and she has the website successconnections.com. And to get started, I'd like to ask, what is your definition of optimization?
Well, optimizing is a term that has a lot of different ways it can go. And the way I look at optimizing is that each and every one of us as entrepreneurs, business owners, service professionals, whatever our thing is, the optimizing is making your business perform better by working less. And I like to look at it as, what if we could be working on the 20% that's getting us 80% of our results, instead of what most people are doing, spending 80% of our time just kind of eking out 20% of the income goals, or even noticing that we're spending so much time on the things that generate the least amount of revenue, the least amount of impact. So, I like to flip that around. And when we're optimizing businesses the way I do it in the small business optimizer process, we're constantly looking at what are the things that have the biggest bang for the buck, that are actually going to really catapult you forward towards whatever your goals are. So that's the way I define it. It's broader than just marketing, broader than just conversion, broader than just testing and doing split tests and tracking, which is all important. But there's actually a whole nother level of optimizing that has a huge impact on the overall profitability that an entrepreneur has.
Absolutely. I love bringing on different variety of people on this show, because there's really so much to learn about business in general, and marketing, plays into all of that. It's just one tool in the basket of all the different things you have to do. And really, if you're not measuring and figuring out where you're going to go, you're never going to be able to really grow and scale, because there's only so much time that each of us can actually do.
So true.
So do you have a framework that you kind of follow to, help businesses grow?
I do. And, if it's okay with you, I'm going to just take a step back too and add a little background on why this is so important. I have been doing this for 14 years. And in the beginning, like many entrepreneurs, I did a lot of things for all the wrong reasons. And what I discovered over my own process, and having worked with thousands and thousands of business owners over the years, is that most of us get caught up in doing creativity for the sake of there's this little energy inside of us that we go, I need to create, I need to get this out. Entrepreneurs have a million ideas, and we think just because we have an idea, we have to get it out there in the world. Well, what I discovered is the very thing that makes us a good entrepreneur in the first place becomes a strength that we might start to overuse. And when we overuse it, it actually erodes profits, and it impacts our ability to really, as you said earlier, scale and be able to grow more optimally. So I found that most of us were doing all the wrong things, trying to grow, to have more income, to have greater impact. And it was actually holding us back, and it was actually costing us sales and sanity. There's a lot of really overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated, energetically depleted entrepreneurs who are kind of hitting their head against the wall going, why isn't this working? I'm doing all the same things, this person or that person's doing. So, and Alex, maybe you've seen this too. I see a lot of people, they get really reactive. They're desperate to get cash flow. They're trying to, make ends meet. They've developed a pattern of kind of just barely getting by, or just, getting enough sales in the door to kind of cover the costs. And they're thinking, well, I need to do more. So instead of really looking at what is optimizable, they just start reacting and saying, well, if I throw a sale out, or if I do this, or I do that, or I add more offerings, and you just get into this busy mode where you're on this hamster wheel doing the same things all the time, and you don't really know what is working. So I decided somewhere along the line that I had personally been through that process and realized how futile it was. And, I had energy issues, and I was having motivation issues, and I would, get really successful and get like a 7-figure business, then it would crash, and, I'd get down to 6 figures again, and I'd be like, what am I doing wrong? And why can't I sustain this? And it all had to do with 3 things. And this is the framework that I take every one of my clients through. First of all, do I have a business model that's designed to meet my lifestyle goals? And our lifestyle goals are more than just how much money do I want to make and how much time do I want to work. They're integrated into what do we need as a human being. Many of us entrepreneurs, we've designed businesses to stroke our ego, or because there's something we're really passionate about. We want to get it out in the world in a bigger way. So there's usually a need behind why we created our business in the first place. And for some of us, it was just we wanted independence, or to be self-sufficient in wealth. But we oftentimes create a job for ourselves instead of a business that can actually deliver the lifestyle and the goals that we set out. So that's the first piece of optimizing. And that has to do with marketing and, redesigning offerings and looking at how your pricing strategies are. So that's kind of the practical, rational, logical side. But there's actually two more pieces to it. And I'm sure you would agree with me that a lot of entrepreneurs are either very intrinsically involved in their business, or they are the only person that's involved in their business. And the way we think and our own habits have a huge impact on our ability to be profitable. And having worked with so many entrepreneurs over the years, I found that we can actually have a great business model and completely screw it up, completely destroy it, because our mindset is not plugged in to deliver the level of success that we see for ourselves. And then our mindset is directly affecting our habits. And there is a specific defined correlation between what we think, what we focus on, what we tell ourselves, and what we will do or not do to grow our business. And so I see those things so intertwined that's my 3-step formula: is business design, mindset, and performance habits, and really being able to turn someone into a high performance machine, if you will, by optimizing those 3 pieces together.
Wow. Well, I definitely really relate to this, because as I went from basically corporate to now working from home and doing freelance, I've learned a lot about, being an entrepreneur and really trying to grow my business. And really one of my goals this year really is to be able to scale, grow my business, basically double my revenue, and create systems in order to do that, because I know that there's no way that I'll ever be able to do it myself. So I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I put it into perspective. Instead of being the operator of the business, really become the owner and manage the systems to really make all those things really happen. And I see it, consistently with other entrepreneurs, is just you're rushing to the next thing, and you're never really, having the right lifestyle. You're self-employed.
Yeah, and I look at it as we've just created a job where we're the main employee.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just kind of rebuild a trap for ourselves, because I have seen, and I've done this myself, pretty much everything that I teach and I mentor on, I've had my own experience with, or, I've guided a client through, and I'll be the first to admit, I went through my own phase of being busy all the time, doing things that really weren't necessarily productive.
Yeah.
And when you start to flip to the other side and you realize, I'm sabotaging my ability to have higher level profits and revenues because I'm just on this hamster wheel and I don't know how to get off. It's a real light bulb moment.
So as you're dealing with coaches, as you're coaching people, and you talk to really hungry entrepreneurs, and they just have all these ideas, how do you really get them to kind of get that mindset and focus? Is there a training that you kind of take them through?
Yeah, I have several. Well, first of all, somebody has to get that what they're doing isn't working. And one of the first things is kind of a reality check. And I'll share this as a little tidbit that was so powerful for me when I got this. And it seems to be very powerful for the people that I work with. And that is realizing that there is a totally different strategy you use to start a business than there is to grow and scale a business. And many of us don't know when to stop the strategy we're using that we started our business with, which is a lot of work, and it is about just trying a lot of things and kind of seeing what sticks, to optimizing that phase of the business where you have to stop just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks all the time and really figure out, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to get good at? And what are you going to make work better? And you have to appreciate that your creativity addiction and being busy all the time isn't necessarily the right ingredients for higher levels of success. And so once you get that, then you're more open, if you will. Your mind is accepting of the fact that you got to do some things differently. And I have several ways in which I guide clients through this process. One is I have a money mindset program called Money DNA Mastery. And it's usually where I recommend people start, because if your mindset isn't dialed into what I call the Thrive blueprint, it's very easy to get caught up in a lot of other blueprints, like being a busy addict or being an under earner, and just out of habit and this automatic pilot, you just underperform and short circuit your own success. So money mindset is one of the pieces. The other piece is really looking at your teams. And many of us, and I don't know, Alex, if you've moved into the realm of hiring people yet, but at a certain point you have to I cannot build this vision on my own. Too many moving parts, too many things that I have to learn how to do, too many things that I don't enjoy doing, and that you'll get higher levels of performance by getting things off your plate that someone else can do. And you might want to write this down. This is my little mantra. Someone else can do better, faster, or cheaper than you. It doesn't have to be all of them. It only has to be one of them to make sense. So I have a program called Build Your Dream Team, where when you really get to a certain point and it's time to start delegating, you don't want to make the mistake of just throwing money at people and hoping it all work out, which is actually, interestingly enough, how a lot of people delegate. They're like, oh, I'll just hire somebody and they'll figure it out. And I like to think, I'm going to turn my team into a high performance team. And what would that look like? So those are two starter points. And then I have a 1-year program that I guide people through, where we cover 12 factors of high level optimized success. And it's really fun, because I give everybody a profit explosion challenge, where they get to pick what level of profit, either 10% or 25% every 6 months we're in the program together. And everybody has this contest, and I teach them the different factors of how to really turn up the profitability and the impact level and be able to soar, so that, the goal is they've basically paid for the program, but also in the process, you are actually getting higher and higher levels of optimization, and you make your business something that you enjoy running more.
Yeah, well, I find it really interesting because I've subcontracted for a while. I have, between 4 and 5 designers going at one time, and then I just brought on a project manager. But it's kind of hard to really, I guess I've always told myself, and this is kind of a limiting belief, that, maybe some of my designers, can't design, they can design as good as I can, but they can't specialize in some of the things that I really kind of focus on, because it is kind of hard to find, conversion focused or results focused designers. So out of my 4 or 5 designers, I only have like 1 or 2 who kind of do that. So, what do you tell people who are looking for, those kind of, advanced type of, skills, or, you just have to let go and, trust more people, I guess?
Well, you said about 4 things that are all integrated into what it means to have a high performance team. And one of them is that you have to let go to grow. But how you let go dictates the level of sanity and profit you get to enjoy by having other people help you. And I have a joke with a lot of entrepreneurs. This isn't about hiring somebody and then doing what I call the dump and run delegation method, which is, oh my gosh, I've got someone to help me. Let me just throw all this stuff on them. If you want to get good results, you have to do 3 things right. You have to hire people who are designed for basically the level of independence you want to give them, which means you can't hire the lowest cost people and expect the highest level of independence and autonomy and the highest level of excellence from them. You have to hire and be willing to invest in the level of good quality results that you want. So there's a little matrix that I take people through in the process of learning how to build a high performance team of, all right, so if you've got this budget, you're probably going to spend more time training if you don't have a lot of budget to hire. But if you have more budget and you're willing to invest more in your team, you can let go more. And all of it, the third piece, is all dependent on how well you systemize and train. And to recognize that optimum performance for your team means you have to optimize your delegation process. You can't just hand things off and expect people to get it, because first of all, they're never going to understand your business to the degree that you do. Secondly, we can't assume that people get intuitively what we need. And a lot of fast-paced entrepreneurs are like, just figure it out. And then they're frustrated with the results. No, you have to have a process where you can tell them exactly what you need, either by having a system or being able to communicate properly your specs and for you, like the design qualifications. And I've had this a lot with graphic designers over the years because, graphic designers think very differently than business owners. Business owners are like, I'm off to the next thing. Graphic designers like, well, I need all these particular pieces in order to do the job well. So you have to learn how to translate from one way of thinking to the other way of thinking so everybody has what they need.
Yeah, I like to see it as, you're anticipating opportunities. So kind of putting yourself always in the right place, the right time, with all this opportunity. And then it's the E-Myth, training these systems to really, basically hiring as low as you can and then having these systems to really train to get anybody to kind of do it. And I've kind of moving towards that. We do a lot of, black and white wireframes and trying to really train the people to get what we want. So I guess, letting go is probably my biggest tip for sure. So as all this opportunity comes in, because, as you grow, you get more opportunity. Are there kind of some best practices to actually say no?
To say no?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think saying no has two levels. First of all, most people are afraid to say no because they're afraid to lose an opportunity.
Yeah.
Or because they don't really know what opportunity is for them and they have bright shiny object syndrome. And so they just say yes to everything, hoping something will work. And so I think, one of the ways I optimize a business owner is I design what's called a decision-making criteria formula for them. What are the decisions that are going to lead you to more success? And what are the decisions you're making that are taking away results and traction and time for what's important to you? So you have to start with really understanding what is important to you. What does success look like? And if I say yes to this, is it going to get me there? And, when you really have a set of criteria to make those harder decisions and you don't just do facts and you don't just use your intuitive gut, you combine those two pieces, you will actually start to really strengthen that muscle for decision making. And part of it is just practice, really starting to practice making good decisions. But the other part about saying no is realizing that you can say no, because I think especially I think women do this a lot. I don't know if men do this as much, but people are afraid to say no because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And especially women. So I'm talking to you women right now. You don't have to please everybody. This isn't about saying yes so you don't lose friends or business. This is about saying yes to the things that actually are going to be good for you and your business. So how you say no is a little bit of an art form. And you can actually say no without coming across rude or, arrogant. And, it's just about practicing that muscle.
Yeah, well, I'm a pleaser. I definitely overcommit to, way too much stuff. People always are asking me for advice and this and that. And just this year, if I'm willing to help people out, but I send them to my Clarity page and they can buy a half hour or hour of my time if they really want me to help them out. So I've definitely changed that for sure. I'm willing to go as far as I need to, but my time is definitely limited. I definitely need to create the lifestyle that I want to, and that's why I'm an entrepreneur.
I want to say one more thing about that, because you just hit a really important point, and that is really understanding what your time is worth and understanding how much time things really take. Because I think the other thing is entrepreneurs as a rule are in their minds superheroes. Like time does not exist for them. It's like, call it liquid time. It's like there's no real time. And what happens is they say yes to things and they keep saying yes, and they don't realize, oh my gosh, I've just booked out 5 weeks. In your mind, it's only going to take 2 days. So really learning how to say yes by looking at where do things fit before you commit.
Yeah. Trying to create more margin in your life so you kind of have a better lifestyle for sure. So, what would you say, or I guess, as people come to you with some problems, what are kind of like the best tips you have for really, improving your revenue?
Mm-hmm. Well, and actually I work on 2 levels. Revenue is one level, but I look at how do we improve profit? Because most people can make good money, but if they're not profitable, then we're not really as successful as we think we are. So you can have a 6 or 7 figure business and not be very profitable. And this is actually one of the most confusing things for people and why I started optimizing is because a lot of my clients were making high 6, 7 figures, but they weren't profitable and they were still always short on cash flow. So here are three. Well, we just talked about one of them. I was going to talk about the decision filter and really understanding what is a high return on investment activity for you. And, here's a couple things to think about. If you tend to have more on your plate than you have time to do, you're saying yes to too many things that aren't either a good fit or you're not really understanding how to really balance your time. So you might want to start looking at high return on investment activities. And what are those for you? What are the things that only you can do? And that when you do them, they exponentially grow your profits and they exponentially influence your impact so that you're able to start making greater progress, because we can get busy with a lot of low level activities that don't take us anywhere. So that's a really simple tip to start having a huge shift in your optimization.
Was there one more?
Oh, I had two more if you want two more.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. This is exactly what I need to hear.
The second one, we started talking about teams earlier, is what I call ruthless delegation. And it's more than just bare minimum delegation and getting, simple things off your plate. I believe that in order to really optimize your business, you've got to get everything off your plate that someone else can do better, faster, or cheaper than you. And that means you have to start looking with a fine-tooth comb as, am I doing something that's costing me money to do it myself? And here's some ones, and I think you'll appreciate me saying one of these is entrepreneurs who get in and start doing their own websites. Well, it's tempting if you feel like you're cash strapped or time is of the essence. But if you're doing your own websites and you're not doing the thing that makes you the most money or has the greatest impact towards your bottom line, you're costing the business money. Things like doing email and phone calls. When people say, where do I start? What should I get off my plate? And I say, well, what do you spend the most time doing? Always, 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 they say email. Email is actually something that is very easy to delegate, and most people are scared to death to do it. So I say, rip the Band-Aid off, just get it over with, and teach somebody how to manage your incoming email. Literally, you can free up minimum 10 hours a week getting someone else to do your email for you. Now, some things you have to do yourself. You can't get everything off your plate, but for the most part, you don't have to be answering every single email that comes into the business. It's a huge freedom. So ruthless delegation is huge. What can someone else do better, faster, or cheaper than you? The third one, and this is back on the marketing topic, I call it really refining your sweet spot marketing. And what I see a lot of people do is they do the spray and pray method. All right, so this program I have or this offering I have, it can help everybody. So they have like a million different marketing things they're trying to do, and so they're going very dispersed in their budget and their energy, but very little of it is performing. So one of the things in the Profit Explosion Challenge I do is I teach people how to start tracking their marketing to see what is profitable and what's not. And we tweak and refine so that they're focused on their sweet spot, which is, who is my target avatar? What marketing strategies bring in my highest paying clients? And the lifetime value of that client is my best lifetime value. And then how do I keep doing more and more and more of that? Doesn't mean you won't try other things, but there's no sense spending 10 hours a week on something that gets you less than 10% of your revenue. It's might be fun and it might be sexy and attractive and it might fill some short-term need for you to kind of get that thing done. But if it's not performing, fix it, delete it, and move on to something else.
Well, too many people try to market to everybody when they should be just marketing to that 1 or 2% of the the people out there in order to get the biggest return. But you hit on a lot of great stuff because everything you talked about was about maximizing your ROI, whether it's the money that you're spending on hiring or advertising or the time that you're spending. That's the two investments that I look at the most, optimizing for each of those areas. Some really great advice. Do you have, any tips on, outsourcing or delegating in general that you can share with the audience?
Well, I think that there's a couple things to understand about this. And that is, first of all, you have to understand what is your high payoff activities and what do you do that drains you or takes away from you spending time in those high payoff activities. And in order to understand your high pay activities, you have to understand what are your genius factors and what is it that you do that brings the greatest return to the business. And, it's not just about the money. We have to understand that as a business owner and an entrepreneur, if we're burned out because we're having to do things that completely sap our energy, you might have to do them in the short term, but in the long term, you either need to learn how to change your mindset around them, which gets us back into mindset, or you want to get them off your plate. And here's a couple of examples. I know in my own life, one of the things that I find that really drains me is planning. And here's the funny thing, I spent a good part of 10 years doing different kinds of planning processes for a Fortune 500 company, and I can do it. But when I do it, it drains me. And a friend of mine pointed this out to me a long time ago. He said, you're either in the marketing headspace or you're in the delivery headspace. And it's very difficult to switch gears between the two. So when I'm in the planning headspace, it's very hard for me to be in the delivery headspace. But I make the most money being in the delivery headspace. When I'm coaching, when I'm doing interviews, when I'm speaking, that's when I'm the most magnetic. It's when everything turns on. It's when I'm the most excited. I'm in flow. I'm having fun. I want to do more of it. It's contagious. When I'm sitting down planning, my brain gets about this big. I can do it, but I'm grumpy. I don't really like it. It's like my brain just goes sideways. So yeah, I can do it, but it's hard to do. And so guess what? I avoid it. So I always tell people when you're going to delegate and outsource, you really got to get the things off your plate that really don't light you up and or really aren't making you enough money in the business. Now, you might be asking all right, so what's some tips for actually finding people? That is the single hardest thing to give tips because it depends so much on who you're looking for. But as a rule, I tell people that one of the tricks to finding really high quality people is to ask your colleagues and then interview them like they came off the street. And I'll tell you why that's important. A lot of people will go out and ask friends, hey, who do you know that can do a good website? Who do you know that might be a good bookkeeper for me? And instead of actually interviewing them, they'll just hire them. And then later they go, this isn't working. Why is this person like this person? They're horrible. That's because we're not all the same as entrepreneurs. And what's important to you, Alex, will be very different than what's important to me. So even though I'm getting a great referral, I still have to interview them like I don't know a thing about them and make sure that they fit my work style preferences. They're going to match my energy and they're going to work inside my context of how I see priorities need to be done and that their skill sets match my expectations.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you build a business, you go through all those mistakes. You I'm definitely guilty of it, just going straight on an Odesk and thinking someone's going to solve my problems and not giving them good enough spec and not getting back what I expected. So you definitely learn a lot through this experience. Hiring friends is not a good idea, but that's a great tip to really.
And no family members. No. If you're married, you need to hire me before you hire your spouse to work for you, because this is like a recipe for strain on the marriage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My wife and I probably could not work together. But you teased us with a lot of great of your webinars and your sessions and your coaching sessions. So tell us a little bit about some of those, and we'll close by telling more about how people can find out more about you.
Yeah, so one of the best tools that I have that's completely free is a really nice what we might call manifesto. It's basically the 15 uncommon strategies for exponential success. And one of the things that I find is that it's really helpful to kind of have a checklist of, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Here are some opportunities that are working for other people. And then I can go, am I doing these things? And it becomes a nice little blueprint. And I'm happy to share where everybody can get that. It's on my main website at successconnections.com. But here, some of the other things that I think a lot of people are missing is, especially if you think you're working really hard and you're not getting very much traction, is really asking yourself, do I really have the mindset and the habits of someone that can perform as a well-oiled machine? Or do I get into a lot of procrastination? Do I tend to hold myself back? Do I not want to take risks? Am I in fear a lot, or do I worry about, how much money I'm making? And do I go through lean periods, then fat periods, and then go back to the lean periods, and I'm constantly in up and down cash flow cycles? There's a lot of things that we take for granted and say, oh, it's just how it is. But actually, it doesn't have to be that way. And
Guilty.
yeah, you're like, oh my God, is she talking to me? Is she spying on me? Well, and I designed this training called How to Recode Your Money DNA for Automatic Success. And for a very limited time, it's still going to be a complimentary training. I'm saying that because we're actually getting ready to start charging for this training. So I want to be in full disclosure that if you wait, by the time you get there, it may not necessarily be free anymore. But it's a very helpful training to go through to understand, how are you wired? At birth and through our childhood, we're getting all these programs from our parents, from our culture, from our community, from our teachers. We're taking in and absorbing all of this stuff around us. And at some point, we literally form a blueprint for how we're going to relate to money and success. And that blueprint is operating all the time. And it acts like the program on our computer. So, it's a great place to start if you want to power up and optimize fast, is get your mindset program for higher levels of success. So that's on my website as well, or you can go to money-dna.com/webinar, and you'll get access to the training there.
That's great. I'm definitely going to check that out myself, because I always have a problem managing cash flow for sure.
Yeah, and it's so weird. Just literally a few simple things that you learn to do differently can have a huge impact on how well you perform around money and success from, it's just retraining the brain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks a lot for your time. This is really great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's been a great pleasure to connect with everybody here today.
Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all of the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.